Module 3, the attorney partnership. Eliminate the fee bearers. I think this is the area I get asked the most about and why I think that Probate Advance is such a powerful tool. So one thing you'll find is that there are attorneys who are not looking for more cases or are very selective, and probably so because the business. The way it works, at least in California, is the attorney doesn't get any fee income until the probate closes. On average in LA County, that's 2 years. Even in the best circumstance, it's a year of laying out money, overhead, office space, whatever, and not getting paid till the end. Additionally, there's costs up front that the client would have to normally advance or has to come from somewhere. And that could be $2,000 or $3,000 in Los Angeles County. You have filing fees, publication fees. Then you have other costs associated with managing the property until the probate closes. That could be additional attorney's fees for evictions, fencing, clean out, things like that. And so what happens is attorneys will select and have a high bar for cases they take in many cases. Customers are frustrated. They have to interview several attorneys. And then oftentimes they'll select the attorney, the one who doesn't require any money up front, who maybe is doing it because he's smart and uses an advanced type program. But in most cases, in my experience, it's because he doesn't understand he's not getting paid to the end. He doesn't understand the total amount of money due during the course of the transaction. And so that's why if you can get an attorney relationship, I'm going to show you how I've built my business. And this is one of the tools I've used to do that. You can totally transform your business. Just like the last module, multiplying by building an army of investors and wholesalers. It doesn't take an army of attorneys, maybe a squad, a handful of really good ones who consistently feed you some business would be great. The first relationship, my highest one attorney is probably I've made in the last couple of years, a couple $100,000. And they can be very, very valuable. But the key is to show them you can help solve their problems. Let's talk about that. In LA County, I actually pulled the data. So I say this, I'm saying from authority. 90% of cases in LA County, California, the attorney has handled one or fewer other cases in the last 12 months. Let me just say it again. They've only handled either one other case or no other cases 90% of the time. Now, the top 10% attorneys, for the most part, are really good. They're proficient. They're productive. They have great staffs. They have systems, procedures. But my experience, that other 90%, if you only do one a year or one every over 2 year period, so one a year at most, how good can you be at it? How much can you know about those details? That's one of the key problems. And so it's almost like they don't want the business. They kind of push it away by being hard to get in the beginning and exaggerating the cost of the fees. If you can find somebody who does the top 10%, obviously that's a home run. How do you get there? Well, you got to get the right case to get in the door. In the meantime, I've made really good money on the 90% attorneys by helping them be more successful with their business. Now, these cases take longer. In my experience, the generalist, he's a divorce attorney, a personal injury attorney, a real estate attorney. They take longer. They can take 2 or 4 times longer. They're hard to get the documents out of. The comfort letter that we need in California from the attorney saying there's no taxes due is harder to get. You got to plan those things, the no proposed action. It can cost more money in fees or challenges, and they might miss deadlines. But here's the thing. You get the case. You're helping them do a better job, helping them learn, helping the client get a better result, which I think is, at the end of the day, the most important thing that I do with. Why do heirs hire the wrong attorney? Well, I think a lot of it is they shop on price. It can, how much will a probate cost? There's a statute of the maximum fees allowed in California and in other states. That's the maximum. But in addition to that, there's special fees. So no attorney is going to commit that it won't cost you more than that. And they know they have $3,000 in costs or so. And most attorneys will ask for a retainer, about $5,000. And so they'll shop around looking for the lowest retainer and or the lowest cost. Like most people, they'll think that's the best way to go, or at least that's all they know. And they can't ask the attorney. They don't think to ask the attorney, how many cases have you closed in the last year? How many have you opened in the last year? You can look online, look for ratings, but I think that can be misleading. And I don't necessarily find they have that much. The attorneys have all these special attorney services that get their rankings higher in social media to avoid kind of the Google profile lack of ratings. And so it's a very difficult way for consumers to hire an attorney, and they end up, I think, shopping on price for lack of anything else. But the advance unlocks the right attorney. So without an advance, a generalist, they're going to ask for $5,000 up front. They're going to take maybe 3 years. If the average is 2 years, it might take 3 years. The property was vacant. They're losing money every month. It's sitting there. There's carrying costs by not of taxes, insurance. If the property gets occupied by squatters, they could lose a fortune. And instead of the house being sold and that money being invested and paying income, it's just sitting there empty while they're paying property taxes and insurance and maybe other costs. Now, with an advance specialist, they get paid right away from the advance company, no out-of-pocket money required, and there's timelines faster. Why? Because in addition to the attorney wanting to get paid, now you have the advance company watching the case. They want to get paid off as fast as they can as well. And the result is the state's protected, sells more quickly, hopefully for more value overall. The specialist problem is they can't advertise for certain cases, right? They can advertise in a certain way. And also they're training and they're not salespeople. They don't want to sell. They don't really want to follow up. They don't really want to close. I'm a realtor. I close people. If it's good for them and good for me, I close the deal. That's my job, is to help a customer get to a point where they choose to do the right thing and do the deal if that's the right thing. And so part of the problem is that the generalist attorney, they'll take any case that comes in just to pay the rent because they're not selling, they're not marketing, they don't have the money to invest in marketing up front. The ones who I find who spend a lot of marketing initially they're good at marketing, they're just not good at being attorneys. And they take too wide of cases, including, for example, probate. They might have a big divorce practice or a big drunk driving practice, and the occasional probate comes in, they want to keep it because they're funding this big operation. They feel like, well, how hard can it be? I have a law license in law school from wherever, prestigious school. And the answer is probate is very challenging, procedural-wise, detail-wise, and so on. And what happens is now you can become a trusted member of the team because they can send you leads who are thinking of signing on with them but haven't yet. And then when you flesh out, well, the issue is they're asking for $8,000 up front, the other attorney's asking for $4,000. We'll say, hey, if I can get you the $8,000 not out of your pocket, would you pick the better attorney? And they always say yes. And so if you can get that relationship with the attorney where they're sending the people who are considering working with them, you become much more part of their business, basically. How do you get the partnership? Well, you would start with getting a list of the specialists. You want to find the probate specialists. That's who you want to send your business to. People who are marketing, who have good reviews, who are putting out content about probate specifically, who have stories with happy customers on the websites. And you can call them, and I find that most attorneys will agree to be taken out for coffee or lunch. Now, what I always do is I pick a place that's close to them they'll recognize, either a restaurant, a name restaurant they'll recognize, or just Starbucks. There's a Starbucks down in your building. Can I buy you a coffee? Can we just meet for 15 minutes? That's an easy one to say yes. But of all businesses, attorneys are more likely to be willing to meet in person, I find. In the old days, when they go to court, that's the best because there are coffee shops and there's a cafeteria in LA on the top floor. And I would say, hey, I see you going to court on Wednesday. I'd love to meet you afterwards. Will you have 10 minutes or so? So you meet them and talk to them. And what you can say to them is I can pre-fund your clients so they don't have to choose between you and paying the court costs, or you and the lower price attorney that you know is not as good as you. I'd love to be your go-to real estate partner. I want to earn it by helping you get some business you otherwise aren't going to get. And that's the opportunity in the door. And so the math is if you find 5 or 10 of these people, you can set, my experience, about half will say yes, 3 to 5 meetings set. 2 or 3, you'll meet them in person. And of course, the number, you get 2 or 3 referrals a month. That could be 6 or 9 listings a year at $10,000 each. That's $60,000 or $90,000. My numbers were much better than that because you get recurring business from these people over time. Once you have a number of them, you're adding new ones in, and that becomes a recurring business over time, those relationships. Because you become the go-to for them. They know that they need you to get the deal closed. They know the client needs you. And here's the thing. It's not just they're choosing your client, the attorney you're working with, as a sales choice, as if it's between buying an iPhone and a Samsung phone. Think of the example, if you really believe iPhone's a better phone, they're picking the better attorney. They're going to get a better result. They're protecting their asset. They're more likely to get paid. And so the flywheel is, and this is the interesting part, you can get a lead before you get the attorney. You get a lead and it comes to you, you can help fund them and bring in the attorney. The funding company, the advance company wants to send the money to an attorney. They'll do it if there's no filing yet, if the attorney is somebody they approve. And why will they do that? Because they want to work with attorneys that are not working with them that are really good. They can see the filings. They know who the good attorneys are they're not working with. They've seen past cases perhaps with them if they're doing business in your county, LA County, for example. So they love it when you bring them a really good attorney and say, hey, I have a prospect, they want to file with so-and-so. They need $10,000. They need $20,000 because they want extra $10,000 for vacation. They love that. And so it doesn't have to start with the attorney lead, but now you have the lead who needs an attorney that you're either referring to or they met from the attorney already and want to use them. And then you bring them the attorney who then turn gives you leads. The more leads you can put in the system and get financed, the more business you're going to get overall. That becomes a flywheel. So what are your next steps for this 2 bite of the apple? One is identify 5 probate specialists, the best attorneys in your market. These are people that you want to work with and want to refer people with. 2. Then call them. Really, I would say 5, find 10, but 5. And call them and set 3 coffee meetings. If you call 5, you'll get 2.5 coffee meetings, 3 or 2. And get one where you actually meet with them and talk to them about you have clients who won't sign up with you because of the upfront money, and I got an advance for them, got them to agree to all that. Would you appreciate that? Would you make sure I could work with the real estate unless they're brought to you by somebody else? They're going to say yes. And in 60 days, you should have your first funded deal together. So this is, again, the probate advance is 1 bite, and the second bite of the apple is the listing. And that's what we're trying to build. And then the third part of this is the attorney now hopefully comes to you next time and says, hey, I have a client, but he needs $8,000 or $10,000. Can you set that up? They get solicited. The problem is for them is many of them work at the companies, they find the money to be too expensive, and they've worked with 1 company or 2 who only work via mail or cold calling attorneys, and they had a bad experience. And what I tell them is, look, I'm a broker. I'm not locked into one advance company. If they turn it down, I'll take it to somebody else, to somebody else, to somebody else until we get it funded. That's my job. As long as we know there's a viable case here, I can get it funded. So again, love to talk to you if you have a case that has a problem on it. But almost any case, 50% or less loan to value, almost any case can get approved as long as the numbers work out.